Alright, so we have some pretty cool stuff here to look at. An associate level designer over at TREYARCH working on Call of Duty 2020 right now actually showed us a bunch of different levels that he's working on right now, and it teases what Call of Duty 2020 is actually going to look like. So a lot of very interesting stuff to go through here. Very quickly, before we start the video, if you guys didn't know, I'm streaming over on Twitch every weekday morning. The vibes are great and the support is actually unreal. We're finally getting towards affiliate on Twitch. So it would really mean so much for me if you guys could check out the Twitch, follow me over there. We're streaming all the time, playing with viewers. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, hope to see you guys there. So first thing here, breaking COD 2020. Aaron W. Stump over at TREYARCH has shared some of his concept work for potential COD 2020 multiplayer maps. We could possibly see some of these in COD 2020, however, they don't seem to fit the whole Cold War theme. And this is actually something that we saw with the leaked COD 2020 gameplay. If you guys remember, that leaked gameplay of COD 2020 was real. It was leaked back at the beginning of June, and we saw it, and a lot of people were saying this doesn't look like the Cold War whatsoever. A bunch of leaks have said that the game isn't necessarily just in the Cold War. It's going to be set in the present or near future, and then will include flashbacks to the Cold War. So the multiplayer maps for COD 2020 could be some maps from the modern era, some maps from the future, and some maps from the Cold War. So the images we're about to look at here could very well be added to COD 2020, even if they aren't Cold War themed maps. So there's more stuff here. Note, none of this is confirmed. However, it is almost likely we'll see maps looking like this in COD 2020. So that's obvious. We don't have confirmation here, and clearly TREYARCH wouldn't greenlight this dude to just release all of these new gameplay images. Obviously, he's teasing it. He's teasing the assets for COD 2020. Maybe if they decide to use these multiplayer maps later on, that would be a different situation. But as of now, obviously not confirmed, but it definitely gives us a good idea as to what COD 2020 is going to look at here. So here is the guy, Aaron Stump over on Twitter. He's an associate level designer at TREYARCH working on Call of Duty. He's working on COD 2020 right now. I like to look at these guys, anyone working at TREYARCH, Sledgehammer, Raven, because sometimes they tease a bunch of very interesting stuff, and definitely I suggest following them as well, supporting them. They're working hard on the game, so they probably would appreciate a bunch of support. But here's what he tweeted: portfolio day again. I am a level designer at TREYARCH on the multiplayer team. Here are some of my personal levels and work I cannot share currently. So let's just go through some of these here. Now, as we're looking at these images, we have to keep this in mind. This level designer over at TREYARCH is using the current Call of Duty 2020 multiplayer asset to create these multiplayer levels on the side. Now, whether or not TREYARCH decides to use his multiplayer maps that he created into the final product, the final version of COD 2020, who knows? We'll figure that out later on down the line. But as of now, keep in mind, these are COD 2020 assets here. So we're looking at COD 2020 gameplay images. It's just on the side, and he's developing it by himself. So we have to keep that in mind. And also, the images are kind of blurry. So I feel like some people might say, oh, this doesn't look that good. These aren't clear-cut HD images. So obviously, if he would post better images, better quality images, we would get a better idea as to how good the graphics are in this game. But let's look at it here for now, just so we can get an idea of the vibe as to what these assets for COD 2020 multiplayer specifically are all about. So the first one here, very dark. It's hard to really tell what is going on here. It seems like they're in the middle of a forest. And again, the actual map design probably will be different. And whether or not they actually use this map, who knows? But I definitely like the vibe of this map. Reminds me of the Michael Myers map from COD Ghosts, if you guys remember that map. A map like that in COD 2020 actually would be very cool. So the next one here looks like some sort of playgrounds map. Maybe it's some sort of arena, a paintball area, something like that. Who knows? But it's definitely the one that I feel like a lot of people looked at and they were just like, wait a second, this is not Cold War. You know what I mean? There are no Cold War, Vietnam War, Korean War vibes here at all. And again, that's the point. He's making these maps on the side. But it's the COD 2020 assets, and you can tell, what does this look like? It kind of has like that colorful BO2 vibe. I don't know if that's just me, but especially looking at this, Reminds me of grinds from BO2 or just those general color schemes from that game. It just seems very along the lines of the BO2 color scheme where it's not that crazy, it's not as dull as Infinity Ward games. That would make a ton of sense if TREYARCH is leading the charge on the multiplayer side of things, although the leaks did say that Sledgehammer was supposed to be leading the charge and focusing on the multiplayer for this game, and TREYARCH would be doing other stuff like zombies and campaign, and then obviously Raven, who knows, they're probably just going to stick with Warzone for now. But maybe they switch that up behind the scenes because this definitely has a BO2 or at least a TREYARCH vibe to it. So who knows what they're doing here. Maybe it's TREYARCH and Sledgehammer collaborating on this multiplayer. So another image here, we have a general image, looks like the side or the back of one of these maps. And again, doesn't this look like the back of a BO2 map? This literally looks like the back of a BO2 DLC map. Just for some reason, I'm getting this vibe right now. I don't know what it is. Obviously, this isn't the Cold War theme. And these multiplayer maps are not finalized, and they might not be in the actual full version of COD 2020, but I could very well see something like this in this game. If they're going with that vibe, if they're going with that theme, it kind of makes sense. I could definitely see a map like this in the game, and I kind of like the look of this map as well. You can't see much, you can't tell much, but it kind of looks cool. I like that. It reminds me of BO2. I'm just getting the BO2 vibes right now. And the last one here is Confidential, and I think this one is actually, obviously he just, put this image, but the last multiplayer map he's working on, clearly he's working on the actual game. He's a multiplayer level designer working on COD 2020 right now, so he has a bunch of different images, a bunch of different files in the vault or on his computer of actual COD 2020, most likely the beginning multiplayer maps, the beta maps, a bunch of leaks from the exclusive Ace, the Game Revolution, a bunch of those guys. They've been saying that multiplayer is pretty much complete, so he probably has pretty much all of the final multiplayer maps. I think a lot of the maps being worked on at a later date throughout the summer and the fall, right when COD 2020 comes out. Most likely those will be transferred over as DLC maps for COD 2020, so maybe we're looking at a future DLC map for this game. So we should definitely go back to this video or go back to these images and kind of get an idea as to what we may see in the future for COD 2020 DLC. But Confidential, clearly he has a ton of the base multiplayer maps, especially the ones that he's working on, and that's going to be very cool to see what we actually get for this game. Now let's talk a little bit about Call of Duty 2020 multiplayer outside of the leaks, just about the general game here and the game mode, what it's going to be like. So someone actually responded to all of this stuff. He's talking to Aaron here. He says, no doors, no dumb camping spots, and no safe spaces, please. So hopefully the level designers over at TREYARCH understand this sentiment, and hopefully they're looking at Twitter and they realize that pretty much everyone playing Modern Warfare multiplayer, and especially from games that aren't TREYARCH, they understand, like, okay, people have problems with camping spots, everyone camping in corners, different sniper vantage points, doors everywhere. I mean, that's a huge deal and kind of a big reason why a lot of people either don't enjoy playing Modern Warfare multiplayer or just don't play it at all. And I think TREYARCH understands that they could bring back a lot of people if they just make normal multiplayer maps. And I think a lot of people don't realize that people used to hate on TREYARCH for only having 3-lane maps. I mean, an argument back in the day, or even like a couple years ago, was like, okay, TREYARCH literally has the same maps over and over and over again. Let's mix things up. Let's get some interesting multiplayer maps. And then Modern Warfare kind of did that, but in the wrong direction. Because the reason why they did that was, at least for most people, was to make it so casual players have better experience, which I guess isn't a bad thing, but the multiplayer maps are so large and weirdly designed that it's just the complete opposite of a 3-lane map. And at least according to the leaks right now, TREYARCH is doing for COD 2020 their style of multiplayer, which should be a bunch of 3-lane maps, a bunch of other medium-sized to large-sized maps, and just an overall good mix of multiplayer maps. I think BO4, unfortunately, it kind of was a good game, and the maps in that game were kind of solid. I think its downfall was that it's too similar to BO3, and there really wasn't any true selling point as to why you should play BO4 over any other game. It just wasn't different, especially to hardcore Call of Duty players. I feel like there just was no difference there from the past games, although a lot of people said BO4 was mad fun, and I feel like I did miss out on that, I'm not gonna lie. But I think with COD 2020 they could really change some stuff up, but keeping this style of multiplayer maps that they're known for 3-lane maps and a bunch of other different styled maps to get a good mix in there, and then they'd kind of be set with multiplayer. So I don't know about you. I think, at least according to the leaks said that they're pretty good with multiplayer. I think for now, we should be pretty good with this game. Again, at least on the multiplayer side of things. We're not going to know for sure until the COD 2020 beta. It's going to be the real indicator as to what we get with this game. But at least as of now, it's looking pretty good with multiplayer. So thank you guys for watching the video. Let me know down below if you watched the whole video. It's down below COD 2020 if you watch the entire video.